Welcome back, everybody. You know, high home prices here in San Diego County have made it a tough place for many people to retire. That's why some are looking at Baja, California, and other Mexican locations as a great place to live. Here to discuss this is Larry French. Larry's a realtor who specializes in properties across the border. And George Halagowski, a gentleman who's worked in San Diego County financial community for a long time, now as a equity investor, is very much involved in a lot of different types of areas and activities. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Nice to see you again, George.
Great
Thanks,
to see you again,
thanks.
George.
Larry, let's talk a little bit about real estate in Baja, Rosarita, Ensenada, that environment there. This has been a popular destination for a lot of people for a long time, but if you could just touch on the rules of ownership and then very quickly some possible changes that could be coming.
Right, yeah. You know, there's been a common misconception in the past that you held property through a 99-year lease, which actually is not even legal, right? Leases are only legal for 9.99 years. So the secure way to hold property is through a vehicle that many of us hold our property in the U.S., a fideicomiso, which is basically identical to a family trust.
Okay.
And the process to acquire one, we have escrow and title companies and title insurance and financing. We have all the same things. It's just a matter of if you're going to acquire a property, probably the most important thing to do is get a great agent.
Sure.
And then follow the process. Don't do things you wouldn't do in the U.S.
And now we're looking at a possible change coming where there could possibly be direct ownership, right?
Yeah, there's some very exciting economic reforms. The current president of Mexico has implemented a comprehensive package of economic reforms, and part of that is a constitutional amendment that will take away the requirement to hold those properties in the protected zone. You know, you can hold property anywhere else in Mexico. It's just along the coast, along the border, that you have to use this trust vehicle.
Okay.
And this is going to take away that requirement and make it so that fee simple ownership across the board in Mexico for anybody. It will generate a lot more investment.
We'll know by the end of the year, you think?
Yeah, currently it's in the legislative process. It's passed the House, their version of the House. It goes to the Senate sometime in the next 6 months. After that, it's expected to be passed by the president and ratified by 2/3 of the states. It's part of that bipartisan package that they're trying to push along. So it's very exciting. It's generated a lot of interest in the real estate community.
George, I've known you for a long time.
Yes, you
Good to
have.
see you again. And of course, San Diego is still home for you, but you now are also a resident of Baja. What opted you to think about spending some time down there?
Well, first and foremost, I went through a very difficult period in my life with the financial crisis, if you might remember that period of time.
Sure, of course.
And I needed a retreat, basically, to get away and to travel to very quickly. I live in Rancho Santa Fe, so the time it takes me to get from that particular home to my beach house in Mexico is all of an hour, 15 minutes. And it was just an unbelievably compelling investment value to the magnitude of at a zero for buy the same property here in the United States.
Sure.
I'm literally where Larry actually found my ideal property, point to point nautically from Point Loma to Point Calafia. House is literally about 60 yards setback from a private beach.
Wow.
And has an unbelievable view of the California coastline. And I think, Larry, would that be an accurate statement to say that it would cost me 10 times more to acquire that property here?
Well, I would
I'm sure
think.
you guys can.
It's modern, brand
Coronado,
new.
La Jolla, anywhere like that.
Amazing value.
And they are equivalent types of resorts. They're private communities on the ocean front with private beaches and amenities and
High security also.
high security. Yeah.
All right, well, let's stay with that security thing for a second, George, and talk about the perception that has been for some time that crime levels are very high down there. Even though it's really been not so much in the news lately, the situation has improved dramatically. Right. Was that a concern for you?
I researched that quite a bit. First of all, because of who I was in San Diego, obviously I didn't want that profile down there for obvious reasons. However, I have to tell you that in the 3.5 years I've acquired this property, I have talked to every expat that is a neighbor of mine, or for that matter, the former governor of Illinois who lives in Larry's complex. Nobody has ever encountered any violence, any crime, any property crime, or anything like that is known to me. The security issue, obviously, there are dangerous places in Los Angeles, Santa Ana, San Diego.
Of course.
You just don't go to those places.
There you go.
And you use common sense. But I think the security thing is way overblown. I don't feel any fear whatsoever. Actually, I feel a sense of freedom when I'm down there that I quite don't have up here.
Now, Larry, you live down there. You have a child going to school down there, right?
Yeah, as I've mentioned before, I've lived there for 7 years. with my wife, who's a gringa, and my daughter, you know, and even with limited language capability, we never feel unsafe. We've never been in an unsafe situation. I feel very comfortable sending my daughter to school. You know, the schools are very safe, and they're very beautiful schools that she goes to. So, yeah, you know, for us, it's not a big deal.
What are we doing about improving the border crossing?
Yeah, well, the border crossing itself is going through a big renovation, and that will reduce the amount of time it takes to get across. But there's other options now, like the Ready Pass. If you have a chip identified card, a passport card, you can get through a quicker lane. If you have a Sentry card, it takes me about 10 minutes.
Wow.
I have a Sentry card too.
There you go.
It's very much worthwhile.
Guys, thanks for coming in and talking about this, because I love this story, and I think we're going to